What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Debt to Dollars, and today I want to cover one very simple and misunderstood concept with being an Amazon seller, and that is your storage limit and what you can personally do to increase your storage limits, especially with the holiday season coming right around the corner. So actually, believe it or not, this is a very common question that I receive from my patrons, and what I always tell them is, one, it depends on your seller account type. So if you have an individual selling account type, you're gonna have a hard cap at 10 cubic feet at one Amazon fulfillment center location that you're gonna be shipping to. So for example, let's say we're gonna be selling these books right here. This book is 6 inches by 4 by 2. So to determine the amount of cubic feet within this one unit, we can go to our cubic feet calculator, or you can just do it yourself. But to make things simple here, let's just use this calculator. So as we can see here, for one unit, the volume of this book is 0.0278 cubic feet. So the next question you might be asking yourself is, how many units does that actually translate to? How many can I actually send to Amazon at one point in time? So all you have to do, if you have that individual selling account type, you take that 10 cubic feet, which is your hard cap, and divide that by 0.0278. So that's going to tell us you can send up to 359 of these books at one point in time to Amazon and keep them stored there. So it's very important to note, I would go ahead and do that for your product that you're selling if you have the individual seller account type. One last thing that I want to mention about this account type is that individual selling accounts, they are not subject to storage limit increases. So you're gonna have a hard cap of 10 cubic feet for the entire time that you have this selling account type. Now, on the other hand, if you have a professional selling account, you may or you may not have storage limits. But the good thing is that you can always increase your storage limit by doing a couple of these things that we'll get into here in a second. So you may be asking yourself, what does that mean? You may or may not have storage limits. It depends on two factors. The first factor is your inventory performance index, or better known as your IPI. So we'll go over to my test account here and we'll take a look at the IPI that I have on this. Currently, it's been up 6 points in the last 7 days, and it's sitting at a 713 out of 1,000. As long as you're in this green, you're gonna have a healthy inventory performance, and there's nothing really to worry about. But as soon as you start getting into the red, that means that you have a lot of inventory sitting on Amazon for an extended period of time, and you have a limited amount of sales coming in to take that inventory away. That's essentially what it breaks down to. You can check out these influencing factors up here and dive more into that when you click Learn More. I'll let you do that with your own time. So while we're here at the IPI, I do want to take a look at two different menus that give you a better idea of how much you can actually send when you restock to Amazon, as well as what's your total storage volume for your account, which is very important to note. You have to be on the desktop, but go down to the bottom left here where it says Restock Limits. This is going to break down 4 different columns based on the type of product. So if it's a standard size or oversized product, they're going to have different storage values that you're going to be seeing here. For this account, I have 82 out of 1,000 units currently at Amazon, a very small amount from what I'm allowed. And then you can also determine, if I want to restock this, I can send a maximum of 918 into Amazon, which would put me at that 1,000 unit markup. Lastly is your storage volume, which is probably the more important factor, since that is how Amazon actually charges you, as well as determines how much you can actually be shipping into their fulfillment centers. The layout is the same as the restock limits, as you can see by the product tiers, the sizes that we're seeing here. But what I want you to focus on is this here. It'll either say unlimited, or it might say an amount of cubic feet that you're allowed at Amazon. For me on this account, it's saying that I can have unlimited storage at Amazon. However, I'm only taking up 0.26 cubic feet, a very small amount. So this is good news, especially if you see these green checks. For this period in time, this Amazon billing cycle, you actually have no limit on the amount of storage you can send and keep at Amazon. Now pay particular attention to this bottom here. As I keep mentioning, these are periods, the billing cycles, these refresh every week or 2 weeks. So look down here where it says next period storage limit. Mine is actually going to decline down to 10 cubic feet. So it's going from unlimited to 10 cubic feet. Something to take note of. This is an individual seller account that I have here for the test account, but for you, it might be different. So the second factor that's going to determine whether or not you have storage limits for your professional seller account is going to be the age of your account. So fortunately, if you have an account that's less than 6 months old, or you possibly, you don't even actually have an IPI score because you haven't received any daily sales, you're not going to have actually any storage limits. Amazon takes this into consideration, and they make sure that for newcomers, you're not going to be subjected to those storage limits, especially if you haven't even made your first sale. Now, one other thing I want to point out is that if you do have the professional account, the minimum amount of volume that you can keep at Amazon is going to be 25 cubic feet versus the 10 cubic feet for the individual selling account. So it can't be less than 25 as long as you have the seller account type, but it can only go up if you follow these 3 steps. So in order to increase your storage at Amazon, there's 3 things that you can do, and 2 are in your control and 1 is totally out of your control slightly. So the first 2 is your sales volume. Simply put, the more daily sales, weekly sales, monthly sales that you get for your products, Amazon's going to increase your storage limit at their fulfillment centers, because think of it logically, it makes sense. If you're having more sales come in, you're going to need more inventory there to keep up with the demand. The second thing is your historical IPI scores. Again, those are the scores here. Mine's at 713 right now. Keep that as close to 1,000 as you can, and you're going to have better storage limits at Amazon. The last factor here is the fulfillment center that you're going to be sending your units to. So if you're sending your units to LAX or Las Vegas or even Phoenix, which has a much newer and more accommodating, larger capacity fulfillment center, you're going to have no issue with this one. However, let's say you live in North Dakota and your nearest fulfillment center is in a very remote location in Bismarck. We'll say that's the nearest one to you. It's going to be a much more remote location, a much smaller location, so your storage capability may actually be a lot smaller versus those larger fulfillment centers. That's the one that's not really in your full control, but what you can do is you can change your shipping address so it's closer to the LAX one or another one. That way you're going to be sending your units to that fulfillment center. All right, guys, one last piece of advice. Please do not miss this. This is very important, is that if you have a storage limit, let's say 2,000, why do you want to max that out? There isn't actually a good answer to that, because the only time that you should actually max that out is if you have demand or exceeding demand that is going to be pulling from those products, and that's the only way you can keep up with them. So what I mean by that is, let's say that you have 2,000 units stored at Amazon, but every week you only sell 2 units. It's going to take years for you to get that inventory out of Amazon. And what you're doing is you're helping Amazon out by paying them storage fees. You're going to be paying Amazon a lot of money, especially in Q4 when the storage fees increase by nearly triple their value. So keep that in mind. Only send in what you need. That way you're not paying a lot of money in storage fees to Amazon. All right, guys, thank you for checking out the video. I hope this gives you more insight as to what the storage limits are with Amazon and what you can personally do for your store in order to increase those.